when you're done, if you could just...
I have one hand right now, and I'm right-handed, so in a minute, probably.
When you're done is fine, just so that we can make sure we got to as many people as we could that were in the building.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank all of you for making sure that the rules that they set are stuck to and not changed in the middle of the game. I'm sure most of you know who I am. I probably won't get too much into that. My name is Leanne. I'm a Connecticut resident. I used to run Informed Choice Connecticut, and I helped to spearhead alongside some amazing people the amazing opposition to the removal of the religious exemption back in 2021. We prepared for that for years. I won't go beleaguer you with the details, but I will tell you that I'm the one that organized that Religious Freedom Restoration Act lawsuit. I am the one who pulled together a badass team of attorneys. I am the one who found plaintiffs whose lives were irreparably affected by the repeal of the religious exemption. When we first filed with the state, you guys said, well, the state, excuse me, not you guys, but the state said, you can't sue us, we have sovereign immunity. We said, no, you do not. The trial court sided with us, and the Connecticut Supreme Court did too. And now it's time for discovery and trial prep, and we're ready. We have depositions and expert witnesses like you would not believe. We have them 6 ways from Sunday. We're gonna win this, and Attorney General Tong knows it. So he's stacking the deck, and I expect nothing less from his slimy self and his slimy cohorts. The party in power has done nothing but stack the deck this entire way, and the people see it. It started by removing Jack Hennessy from his Deputy Speaker of the House seat, physically moving his seat to the back of the General Assembly with the freshman legislators after being here for 18 years. It was a humiliation ritual, if you will, and it was all because he spoke up for what he believed. He would be spitting mad today. I have text message after message from him talking about how his party has betrayed him after all his years of loyalty. What you're doing is disgusting. Someone earlier said that the people have recourse. They can go after the state, which is a load of crap. Putting enormous legal expense on the little guy so you guys can just claim a win is just bullying. It's just a bunch of rich kids bullying the little guy. It's crap. Our RIFRA lawsuit legal expenses are nearing $500,000 already, and we haven't even gone through discovery, interrogatories, trial, appellate phase, or anything. And so you guys think, oh, we'll just do this, and if somebody is injured in some way, they can seek legal remedy. Well, they don't have the money to go up against the Attorney General's office. So guess what? We did it for free. We're doing it for free because it's the right thing to do. So it's just a shitty thing to do for the little guy. We're supposed to be teaching our children that cheaters never prosper, and this is cheating. Changing the Religious Freedom Restoration Act law in the middle of a litigation attacking that specific law is cheating, and y'all know it. So we're breaking up. I'm not complying with anything. You can do what you want, and a lot of these families feel the same. Do whatever you want, but what we are doing now is we are setting up our lives so that nothing that comes out of this house hurts our family anymore. I've been fielding thousands of phone calls from families over the last 10 years of my life about things that have been coming out of this house. I have spreadsheets and have sent them all to the Public Health Committee years ago of hundreds, over 300 families who can't find care for their children simply because they choose to skip one, more, or all vaccines for their children. You're creating a problem in this state. There's health issues that need to be addressed in some of these children that they can't get a doctor for. And now we're trying to sue to help people who have deeply held religious objections, and we're just gonna change the rules in the middle of the game, just like what happened in that hearing over there. Y'all knew an hour beforehand that you were running out of time and you had a ton of people that wanted to speak, and you knew you had a minute, and the motion was made as you were crossing the finish line to shut that hearing down, and you argued the last 15 minutes of our hearing to shut it down. That wasn't cool. And we're done. We're all done. We're not doing anything anymore to comply with the illegal stuff that's coming out of this house. We are done listening to people who clearly are a threat to our family's autonomy, and I'll welcome any questions about the lawsuit. Thank you.
Hello, Michael Alfredo, Branford. I wrote a whole thing, and you know what? You guys have heard all the facts all day long. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my family and my situation here. So let's start off with my first son, who had to go for his vaccinations. And suddenly, within days, he spikes a fever, first febrile seizure. Okay, maybe that is a coincidence. Second one, what happens? Another febrile seizure. So, although I had a lot of confidence and I was pushing my family to go through the normal procedures, we had this happen. So, where does that land us? Let's fast forward a little bit. So, what these mandates have done through COVID has ripped my family apart. I've had to literally take my kids to Missouri to go to camp because of these mandates. Why? Has it been effective? Has it been safe? No, neither has happened. You continue to force and you now want to give me a schedule. I'm sorry, it's not safe, it's not effective. What are you doing? It's hurting people. I literally our marriage was ripped apart because of this. We had to change our life. I have not seen a doctor because I'm afraid of what you will do. This is disgusting. What country do we live in? I have deep, deep religious thoughts. I am a Eucharistic minister. I am a lector. I give over 40 hours a month to a youth organization. And I can't even practice the way I want to. I can't go to the camps that I want to. This is not at all acceptable. I understand that other people are at risk, but you cannot put my family at risk, and that's what you're doing. Yes, I did.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? If anyone has questions, just
So I have to go testify over there, so gotta get this done. Okay. Never thought I would be back in this seat again. Not. The number?
Don't worry about the number.
Okay. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to leave this very informal. I'm not going to read through this whole thing. My name is Tammy Stott. I've been here on multiple occasions before. I come before you, like I've said before, not just as a citizen born and raised here in Connecticut, but I'm also a veteran, a wife of a veteran, and a mother of 4 daughters. My family has dedicated pieces of our lives to serving this country and protecting the freedoms that define it. Those freedoms are not abstract to us. They are the very principles we swore an oath to defend. We have lost friends. We have firsthand knowledge of what happens to the state of a nation when those liberties are stricken from its people. I stood ready to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That oath did not expire when I took my uniform off. It continues at very moments like this, when I feel compelled to come into this building and speak. As a mother of 4 daughters, I am deeply invested in their future in this state and in this nation. I want my girls to grow up in a state where their rights are respected, where their freedom is not slowly chipped away through legislation after legislation, where citizens are not required to repeatedly come before their own government to plead for the preservation of liberties that should already be guaranteed. I dream of a day my children are blessed to become parents and don't have to face the consistent challenges my husband and I have had to face raising them here in Connecticut. Yet here I am, again, after midnight, speaking and giving testimony off the record. Many of us find ourselves returning to this Capitol year after year, writing, calling, and asking our elected officials to remember the principles that our nation was founded upon. It is exhaustingly and deeply concerning. Let me see. It's even more disturbing, and this was already spoken about, but I'm going to throw this in there because I also dedicated a lot of time and money into this lawsuit. My family did. It's even more disturbing that our own Attorney General has influenced the gathering today, promoting workaround legislation to win instead of humbly accepting a loss in the judicial system. The freedoms that we enjoy every day are not granted by were not granted by our government. They were endowed by our Creator. My daughters are watching. The next generation is watching. They are learning whether their government listens to its citizens and respects the freedoms that generations of Americans, including veterans who paid the ultimate sacrifice to defend. So with that said, I'm not asking, I'm saying, once again, do not pass these bills, SB 450 and HB 5044. And then I also just wanted to say, well, thank you for coming in here, the other half of the committee, by the way. I'm just asking as a human being, look not who sits beside you or above you in this building, but rather look at yourselves as fellow human beings and the families that you have of your own. It's a lot different being on this side of the aisle, and I pray that you never have to be here.
Thank you. I just have one quick question.
Sure.
Were you required to get the COVID vaccine in the military?
I was out, thank goodness, before. However, if I do have a minute just to say something really quick, I was vaccine injured by the nasal flu vaccine in the military, the live virus, the one that was the nasal. Yes, yes. Yes. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're putting our name and town, is that it?
Yeah, then we can just sort of question.
So we can find your testimony and know if we need to follow up with you if we have questions.
Is it one or the other or all of them?
The one with the red glow is working.
Okay, all right. My name is Wendy Sears. I'm from the little town of Scotland, and I thank you all for remaining, even if it is off the record. I'm a little disappointed with the process over here, but I'm thankful to have the opportunity to testify. So I'll just start by saying that I strongly oppose both SB 450 and HB 5044. I believe that these bills create an adult vaccine schedule, which I strongly oppose. I believe that the decision to vaccinate or not should result from a private discussion of the risk versus reward with my doctor. I don't believe that the state has any role in that personal health decision, nor do the groups that lobby government officials and spend millions of dollars advocating for their products and corporate interests. I also agree with the recent changes in national health policy that reduced the type and quantity of childhood vaccinations. If I had only done the research. When my premature babies were born, I would have made very different decisions about early vaccinations. Therefore, I cannot support the expansion of authority of the Office of Public Health Commissioner to include giving unilateral authority to one unelected official, whereby the governor has the authority to order the commissioner to vaccinate persons, among other authorities granted. Furthermore, HB 5044 removes the Regulatory Review Committee from the approval process for adding immunizations to the schedule. This committee is the last bipartisan oversight body overseeing immunization changes in the state. I oppose this bill because I support keeping bipartisan oversight in place. And last, but certainly not least, I oppose the elimination of religious protections related to vaccine objections, with specific opposition to the exemption from the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. It's also important to note that I would strongly support adding a personal or philosophical exemption to vaccination. I don't think that it should be merely religious or medical exemptions that are allowed. I think I have another minute. I just want to say that I really appreciate all of the parents and the families that are here that come and testify, that fight for these rights every single day. I actually got involved in this movement back when the religious exemption was being considered for removal. And I stood on the Capitol lawn with about 10,000 new friends to learn more about what our state is doing to us and how it affects families and neighbors. And I was really moved by that movement, and I have stayed with it since 2021, and so that's why I'm here today.
Question
Well, not so much a question, I just to tell you, thank you for staying and quote-unquote testifying, even though unfortunately you weren't given the opportunity yet when the public hearing ran. And thank you for all you've been doing to stand up for everyone's rights, just not on this issue, certainly on homeschooling, many other things. So it is very much appreciated. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Senator Gordon.
Thank you, members of the Public Health Committee, and thank you for coming over to this room. I greatly appreciate it. My name is Crystal Bale Alfredo. I'm a resident of Branford, Connecticut. I'm here today to strongly oppose SB 450 and HB 5044. These bills propose to codify and establish a statewide standard of care for immunization through the State Public Health Authority. While public health guidance is important, codifying a broad immunization standard raises significant concerns about centralized authority over medical decisions and potential for expanding mandates without sufficient legislative oversight. Medical care should remain a decision made between patients, families, and their physicians. Establishing a state-defined standard of care for immunization would create pressure on providers to follow a single state-endorsed protocol, even in cases where individualized medical circumstances may warrant a different approach. Additionally, policies that affect the health and bodily autonomy of Connecticut residents deserve full transparency and direct legislative review rather than broad delegation to administrative agencies. Residents should have confidence that major health policies are developed through open debate and careful consideration of differing medical opinions. I also find it very disturbing and disrespectful for a bill as important as this that you capped the testimony time. There's still 200-something people that need to be heard, and not hearing from all the residents who wish to testify. Also, this bill stands to usurp the judicial process of an active case with ongoing litigation. Again, as a citizen, I find it quite disturbing. Also, I want to take a moment, and as I'm sitting here, I'm remembering the medical apartheid that was created during COVID. There was an us and them scenario. There was many places I couldn't wear a mask, I was not getting vaccinated, and I was thrown out of places. Governor Lamont said I needed a piece of paper. I needed to show my papers to enter a store, and I needed to have a medical reason. I knew my medical reason. I couldn't wear a mask because I was sexually abused, and I couldn't wear that. And I didn't need a doctor's note for that, so I had to hold a paper that says I'm a rape survivor, and this mask causes me great trauma. I had to do that over and over and over again. You created an us and them environment. This bill will create that same situation. It'll be us and them. You'll be allowed into this job, not into that job. You will be allowed here and allowed there. Allowed in this store, not allowed in that store. Why do we want to create that environment again? That was traumatic. It was traumatic for the children. It was traumatic for myself. It was traumatic for all the people involved in that. Why would we create a bill that creates the same situation? For all these reasons, today I urge this committee to reject SB 450 and HB 5044, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Sarah Gadboy, Scotland, Connecticut. I just want this committee to understand exactly what you are participating in today. On HB 5044, as you know, the bill strips legislative oversight from adult vaccine policy and hands it to a single unelected commissioner. But let's just be precise about who advises that commissioner, because it exposes exactly whose interests this bill serves. The advisory bodies embedded in this bill include ACOG and AAP, and those are not medical authorities. They are trade unions. They are membership organizations that collect dues and lobby governments, and worse, take money from drug and vaccine manufacturers. They are not independent scientists. They are not neutral. They have direct financial relationships with the companies that make the products that the commissioner would then have unchecked power to mandate. This is not a public health framework. This is purchased regulatory structure, and you are being asked to write it into Connecticut law. On SB 450, I'll be blunt, this bill is a fraud. It offers a religious exemption in one section, and then in section 15 declares that exemption legally unenforceable. That is not religious freedom. That is a theatrical prop designed to give legislators the fig leaf of political cover for abolishing a constitutional protection. You've already heard why it exists at all. Attorney Urso's suit filed in 2022 under Connecticut's Religious Freedom Restoration Act. The case survived every single motion to dismiss that the Attorney General has thrown at it. The state cannot win this in court. So they come here to you to change the law mid-litigation and make the lawsuit disappear. That is no different than a petulant child who's losing a game and changes the rules, or failing that, takes their ball and goes home. Connecticut was the first state in the nation to pass the Religious Freedom Restoration Act in 1993, 33 years of constitutional leadership, and you are being asked to gut it. Not on principle, and not for public health, but to bail out the Attorney General in a case he is losing. That is not legislating, that is obstruction of justice dressed in a committee hearing. Please, vote no on both bills. This is gross malfeasance, and if you vote in favor of it, you're guilty. I know what it costs to be brave here. I testified in both 24-hour hearings, 48 plus hours of opposition from your constituents, and you passed it anyway. We all saw what happened to the Democrats who dared to vote their conscience instead of their caucus. They were primaried, they were stripped of committee assignments, or denied them entirely. But that is what courage looks like. You have been asked all day today to do the same. I understand the pressure you're under. I'm looking at the Democrats. I understand what your party leadership expects of you. But be brave. We're your constituents, and we will not forget who sat here and in that room and then refused to represent us. Gross malfeasance.
Not sure what that means. Not sure what that means. What does that mean?
What does that mean? So the attorney to your right could probably tell you that gross in legalese means flagrant, which means shockingly wrong. And malfeasance is the intentional commission of an illegal or wrongful act, often by a public official or corporate officer, that exceeds their authority and causes harm. Penalties include fines, lawsuits, and imprisonment. Thank you.
I forgot to write my name on
I
the
want to say
paper.
mine again because the people who were supposed to be in the room weren't here when I went off, and I was saying it to people I liked.
Is there anybody else in the room who hasn't testified yet?
Oh, I never signed up.
Did anybody else want to speak?
You're after me, okay, guys?
Yeah, that's great.
I was number 317. I think I got missed when we switched from
Don't worry about it.
doing everyone.
Just put your
Okay,
name and your
all right.
town so we can cross-reference with your testimony.
Okay, all right, sorry. Okay. I have this that I wrote, but you know, I did talk to some people, and I feel like we've evolved slightly. And basically, I want to say I've been a Democrat my whole life. I'm in the minority here. But basically, I have a vaccine-injured child. This is what happened to my son. I have a medical exemption for my kids because this was such a egregious vaccine injury, and I'm sure you've heard all day how difficult it is to get a medical exemption. I can only say how much that's true, having done it. Me and my husband had to go through basically years of medical testing on ourselves and genetic testing of things that most people can't afford, things that most people don't know how to get, things that most people don't know how to research. So yeah, I'm in the 1% of people that could figure this out. I don't think that that should give me a special privilege. I think that a lot of people are in the same category I was, where my kids have medical reasons for vaccine exemptions, but my doctor wouldn't give me one until I did all that work I just described to you, and only because the religious exemption was removed. So, you know, I don't know this woman, we spoke briefly, and, you know, I think that part of what I'm hearing is that a lot of what people are testifying about isn't even in this bill. People are traumatized. I'm not the only one that was here in 2001 because our rights were taken away from us and taken away from our kids, where as parents, we're not allowed to do what we know is right for our kids because we have someone else, you know, because I have to spend 2 years proving that what I know is right. And you know what? If you hadn't taken the religious exemption away from us 4 years ago, or however, I don't know how many years it's been, you wouldn't have a whole room full of people here who are ready to jump the gun and be super reactive if you mention vaccines and legislation in the same sentence. These people are here because they're traumatized because their rights were taken away. You want to give the religious exemption back? You want to give philosophical exemption back? Then maybe you could, you know, like someone said, like, make sure there's enough vaccines for everyone that wants some. I don't have a problem with anyone that wants to take vaccines. Go ahead. You know what? These measles outbreaks prove that vaccines work. Take the vaccine if you want it. It will prevent you from getting the measles. But if you have a child like this who can't get a vaccine, you shouldn't be forced to have to give it to them just because you can't prove that this didn't happen overnight. This didn't happen in 15 minutes. Those are the kind of vaccine reactions that doctors are willing to say is a vaccine reaction. This child is 13. It took me 13 years to prove this case. Sorry. Basically, you know, I agree that one preventable death is too many, but that should be preventable deaths from vaccination and not just preventable deaths from the diseases. Parents should have the right to make the decisions that they know are best for their kids. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Come on up.
Good to see y'all
It's off the
again.
record.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. How many hours did you put in? Would you guess you put into getting that medical exemption?
I don't know. I mean, my
Thousands?
doctor told me that he said you know more about this than I do, so I guess I'm gonna have to.
Oh, fun. I love it. I don't. That was a lie. Sorry. Not off the record, right? All right, so I had a couple of testimonies in front of me. I wasn't sure which one to go with, but after years now, I have to share my story. A formal education was very important to my wife prior to having children. When our daughter was in utero, the state of Connecticut removed the ability to utilize a religious exemption. Now, why is this important? As a young kid, I was diagnosed with a chronic autoimmune disease, which I firmly believe is the direct result of receiving a childhood vaccination. I never had to worry about getting a medical exemption prior in school, but as a new father, I wanted what was best for my new daughter. But the more I looked into all of the vaccinations and the ingredients in them, the more concerned I became. Prior to receiving any vaccinations, we wanted to make sure that they were safe. We were referred to an allergist who was able to test for a reaction with an allergy test, but nothing related to anything autoimmune. But that was one of our only options. When the doctors found that there were no allergies, we said, well, what other avenues can we pursue? We were referred to a geneticist. The geneticist at Yale, the geneticist told us that they wouldn't even see our daughter, look at her genetic profile until they had my genetic information, which I had never had done. I didn't have insurance at the time, so we didn't know how exactly to go about getting a referral for that. It was very challenging. But we held off as long as we could before vaccinating. Polio was the first and last one our daughter received. When we got home after she got her first shot, she could barely walk. An area rug less than a quarter of an inch off the floor was difficult for her to navigate without tripping and falling flat on her face. It was like her brain had lost connection to her feet and couldn't lift them high enough as she could have hours before. After watching this, we decided to attempt to get a medical exemption, which was still allowed per the general statutes. I didn't realize it would be so difficult. We went to many different doctors' offices around the state, and yet even with my medical paperwork in hand stating that I had an autoimmune disease, no doctor would sign one for us, even if statutorily allowed. Working near a state border, however, we found an alternative option for a formal education in a state which still allowed a religious exemption. This turmoil had put undue stress on our relationship, and with bills like these being proposed, even more so. We pay taxes to the state, and yet we are unfairly ostracized and segregated from the services which we pay for. Under the current proposal, we'd have to go to our... Oh, sorry. Nope, that's for the other bill. Good. My time is good.